Hi guys, Adrian the Porsche lover. So if you've been to my channel before, you know that I'm a big fan of buying pre-loved Porsches. So when I talk about that, I always talk about PPI and the 3Cs. So today we're going to deep dive on what is PPI. As usual, we'll start with a wristwatch check. So on my wrist today is a Casio calculator watch. This is the model CA56. A lovely watch with the 80s, 90s theme. And I love it because it reminds me of my childhood days. Alright, back to the topic at hand. Assuming you found your dream Porsche, be it a 996 Boxster, a 991 Cayman, or even a 997 911. So these cars actually absolute value for money these days on the pre-loved market. However, the main concern is not to buy the car, but it's actually to maintain or repair the car. So to avoid being a money pit and a lot of issues with the car, as mentioned in my previous videos, you will need to perform a PPI. So PPI stands for pre-purchase inspection. Why we do this is because we want to know what is going on with the car. Of course, you see the paint is shiny, the tires are waxed are shiny as well, everything is lovely. And as you know, when you buy these cars, it's more of an emotional type of purchase instead of a logical purchase. So when you see the car is so lovely, your dream car, definitely you will jump in head first without thinking of what are the consequences. So for this type of cars, the main concern will be the 3Cs I mentioned earlier. Condition, condition, and condition. The reason why the 3Cs are so important is because, like for example, my 97.1 Boxster S, this is a 2005 car, which makes it a 16-year-old car. So anything which can fail will fail because due to the lifespan of the car, the wear and tear and everything. So this car can either cost you, let's say, 5,000 ringgit in repairs or up to 50,000 ringgit in repairs. So the 3Cs are very important. So to determine the 3Cs, you need to do a pre-purchase inspection. So I feel it's a very small price to pay to avoid you from getting into a possible money pit and also a lemon car. So the PPI is actually based on this check sheet where there's a 25 points. Of course, sometimes they claim 50 points, 100 points. So it depends on how much you can do it because one light bulb is 1 point, the other light bulb is another point. So technically there's about 25 points for the car itself, which starts from the top to the bottom of the car. One of the first things when the car comes into the shop for PPI will be to diagnose the car first. So what we'll do is that we'll diagnose the car using the OBD socket for the car itself to see what are the fault codes or error codes on it. Usually most of the time, if let's say if there's no engine light or any ABS light on the car itself, most probably no codes will show up. But again, we just want to make sure that everything is clear on the car. So you can see here, so this is the diagnostic system for the car. So DTC stands for diagnostic trouble codes. So if this is the case, you can see that it's 0, which is a very good thing because it shows that there are no error codes on the car itself. Once this is clear, we can move on to the next step, which is to inspect the car physically. For the front of the car, there's a couple of things that we can check. So you can see here, the brake fluid reservoir is actually located here. So brake fluid, unbeknownst to most, is actually hygroscopic, where it actually attracts moisture. So once it attracts moisture, it will actually become very dangerous because it will reduce the boiling point of the brake fluid itself. We have a tester to check how is the brake fluid condition. So you can see the battery is here. There's also we'll check the battery condition to see how the battery is. And then over here, you can see that we also check the windscreen washer. This is actually for your wipers. And over here will be the aircon filter, or they call it the cabin filter. So over here we will check all the lighting for the car. So you can see we check the front lightings, also the back lighting as well. So the headlights, the signal lights, the high beam, the fog lights, and also the horn of the car. So the back here, we can actually check the coolant level. So you can see this is actually a quite common issue for Boxster Cayman, where this tank will crack due to, again, age, wear and tear, and the heat. This area is pretty hot because the engine is right behind here. So you can see we can check for the cracks on the coolant tank, and at the same time we will check and see whether the cap is in good condition. So if it's not in good condition, usually you can see there's like whitish stuff surrounding the area here. You can see this area is very clean, so it means that there is no leakage at all. So this is actually the filler cap for the engine oil. We can't check the oil level for the engine oil because it's using a sensor. So you can usually check it using the gauge in the instrument cluster. So we're going to check the car up next. You can see that what we're going to check here is that the brake pad and the brake disc condition. So you see how worn out the disc and the pads are. So pads are actually still in pretty good shape. So it's still very thick, so still usable. Okay, at the same time, we also can see the tire condition and also any absorber leak or any buffer worn out as well from here. So over here, what we're trying to check for is that we're trying to check for any free play in the wheel bearing, and also by doing this, we want to see whether there's any rough notches from the tire ends or the lower arms or any of the ball joints. Now we move on to the underside of the car where things start to get interesting. Usually most people will see that the top part of the body where it's very shiny, it's been waxed and everything and polished. However, the things at the bottom are the most interesting where people usually can't see unless you have a jack or hoist like this. Then you can see everything underneath it. So here you can also see that the tire condition is still very good. Of course, this is a brand new tires we just replaced about a couple of months ago. So the tread level is still plenty. So here we can see all the absorbers. You see there's any leakage there. You see it's dry, which is a very good sign. You can see the link rods. You see whether the bushings are cracked. Here you can see the dry shaft cover. See whether there's any cracks or any oil leaks which could damage the dry shaft. At the same time, we also can wiggle the dry shaft to see there's any free play in the dry shaft itself. Then over here, you can see this is the gearbox oil pan or the Tiptronic oil pan. So this is very dry, means that it's in good condition, that there's no leakage. You also can see from the underneath here that under pan that everything is dry. Okay, so you can see from here, later we will remove all these covers to see if there's anything else that could be leaking. So you can see some of these are the coolant hoses where there will be potential leaks in the coolant hose itself. So you can see out here, I was going to remove the undercover of the car. So what to check for any leakages or anything that is amiss at the bottom of the car. So like for example, the other day, you can see all these under tray covers here. It's supposed to be all here. So you can see it's in good condition. There's no crack or anything. The other day, I inspected a car for PPI and I found that the center cover was actually missing for a 997.2 turbo. So the used car dealer actually promised the customer to give him back the cover, but in the end we had to replace the cover because the cover was missing. So you can see we actually removed the covers for the car already. So you can see all the holes at the bottom here. So you can see look for any whitish stains or any wet stains where it could be a possible sign of any leakage. Over here, we also can check for any body damage to the car where you can see the lines of the car. Usually you see all those are original from factory sealant. So you can see, let's say if the sealant is disrupted or not in a straight line, you know that this car has already been involved in a serious accident and the chassis has already been compromised. For the front of the car, it's pretty much the same thing. So we'll check for the suspension. You can see, of course, this is air duct to channel airflow to the brakes to cool the brakes down. So you can see the top here, you see there's anything leaking. You see there's almost pretty new because it's still black color. So you check and see if there's anything that is worn out or any arms that are worn out here. Here you can see we're actually removing the front under tray cover of the car itself to check for any additional items, because true story, what happened is that over here is the location of the fuel tank itself. So previously, I had a friend who bring in a 911, a 991 to be exact, for a PPI, and actually found that the fuel tank was leaking because it was wet at the bottom here. The seller, the used car dealer, claimed that he didn't know anything about it, but we actually saw that the area leakage actually has been patched back. Somebody tried to gum it back. So yeah, so it's one of the horror stories which could happen to my friend, or to any one of you. So hence we always do the PPI for the car. So you can see here, everything is dry, which is a good sign. So you can see all the hoses here are dry. So usually it's a metal hoses, usually it won't leak unless there's a rust, then it will break and leak. So you can see here with the cover removed, we can see all the arms easier. So you see the lower arms. So what we do is that we check for any bushing cracks. Here you see this is still new, so the bushing is still in good condition. So yeah, so we check for everything at the bottom here to check to see whether there's anything amiss. So here, so we can check for the rims to see whether the rims are also cracked as well. One of the final items to check on the car will be the fan belt for this car. So the fan belt is actually located at the back here because it's a mid-engine car. So you need to remove this entire cover to see the fan belt condition. Once that's done, we put everything back and go for a test drive. So the test drive will tell us a lot of things where we're able to check to see whether the gearbox is shifting properly, how's the downshift, how's the upshift, how does the car perform under hard acceleration, does the engine make a lot of noise, does it have weird clunking noises. And also we also check for the suspension to see whether the suspension is only making any noises over uneven or rough roads. Hopefully you guys learn a thing about PPI and use this as a very good tool to purchase your next car, and hopefully you get a good condition car with the 3 C's I mentioned. Meantime, stay safe. Cheers guys.